free to stay on the call if you've got anything specific that you want to discuss further. So I'm going to share my screen and share the slides. Um, Here we go. And I'll pass over to Nell to talk through the first few slides.
Great, thank you, Henry. Yeah, hopefully you can all see Henry's screen. So during today's session, we're going to be talking a bit about how the carbon footprint fits into the program and why it's a really important aspect of the program. We've got some key dates and deadlines to share with you as well. And then Henry's going to talk through kind of exactly what data needs to be collected and how you might go about collecting that data, entering the actual data into the tool, and then at the end we'll have some time for questions as well. Cool. So as you all know, you're all quite far into the program now. So you're delivering your pupil sessions, which you'll be delivering up until the end of the academic year, in the 4 stages. You will either have had a visit from one of us if you're on the premium program, or have planned in a visit from one of us, or have planned in your staff CPD sessions to deliver to your whole staff team. And then obviously the estimate of your school's carbon footprint, which will be sent to you the week of the 9th of Feb, once you've done all of your data collection, and then kind of whole school community involvement ideas as well, and how to kind of really showcase what your school's doing with the rest of the local community. And we just wanted to share this quote from Lisa Graham, who is a teacher at Heathbrook in Lambeth in London, and they've been on the programme for many years now, and what she says about the carbon footprint. So she says, we've taken part for the last 3 years and it's become embedded into our curriculum and the children love it. Every year our carbon footprint has reduced and this is very motivating as we aim for zero carbon. So yeah, that's just kind of an example of how the program is very much designed to be delivered year on year. So when you receive your estimate of your school carbon footprint each year, then you can see those reductions taking place each year, which is super motivating, not only for staff, but also for the pupils taking part in the program and the wider school community as well. So yeah, this is part of the investigate stage of the program, and is kind of, yeah, a really important part of gearing up to the pupils designing and leading their projects in ACT, because they can see kind of which aspect of their carbon footprint they might want to be focusing on for their projects. And it's, yeah, real incentive for them to plan some really exciting projects, and as I said, to do the program year on year and see those reductions happen. So another quote then from Laura Weirs at Westview in Hartlepool. They've also done the program. I think this is their 3rd year doing it. She said, what helped them engage was when we had to collect all the data for our carbon footprint. They were so enthusiastic, and the visual carbon footprint made it really easy for them to understand. They just loved it. So yeah, the pupils really like this kind of bespoke aspect of the program for sure. And then finally, then some dates and deadlines for you. So obviously, we sent the tool out on the 24th of November in that week. And then today is the 13th of January. We've got the support session. And the 30th of January is the deadline to submit your data. So that's in just over 2 weeks' time. So yeah, not super long. And then you will receive your estimate of your school's carbon footprint, your poster, and your bespoke session 12 resources, which will be sent to you the week commencing the 9th of Feb. So just before February half term.
Great, thank you. And then yeah, just to emphasize that kind of pupil element, obviously, I'll talk through a little bit when we go through the tool about a few aspects that the pupils could actually be involved with the collecting of the data. But actually, one of the nice things about and one of the kind of initial ideas behind the Zero Carbon Schools program was to really get the pupils involved in this aspect of it. And while they can't do all the kind of background calculations that are quite complicated through the website and on the online tool, what we do send you when we send you the poster and the results is also a couple of worksheets that the pupils can actually carry out some of the calculations Some of them are just kind of simple addition tasks, but it's really nice for them to actually get involved. And there's a session, the session 12. For those of you who've done the program before, you'll know about it. If you're new to the program, it's just a lovely session where the pupils can actually kind of predict which is going to be the highest, do some calculations, and then there's the kind of big reveal of how many tons of carbon dioxide the school produces, but and also that kind of red, amber, green rating in relation to other schools. So it's a really nice way to kind of get the pupils to understand the carbon footprint and in comparison to other schools. So I'm going to go into some more a bit more detail now on, and I'm going to just walk you through the online tool and all the different tabs to it. It's hopefully very intuitive and straightforward. The instructions are all there, but I think it's helpful sometimes to just kind of hear that explained and just give you a few kind of tips and pointers for that. So I think Zenobia is going to put a link in the chat or has just done so. The link is very straightforward. It's just greenschoolsproject.org.uk/questionnaire, and that will take you to the tool. So I'm going to stop this share and I'm going to do another share with my screen so you can actually see me going through the tool. So hopefully this will work. And I need to, oops, I need to exit here we go. Can you now see the online tool? Yeah. Okay. So hopefully, yeah, through my sharing, you can see the online tool there, and that's through the link that you've just been sent. The first tab is instructions. Definitely worth going through the instructions to start off with. The idea, so I guess there's two ways of doing this. You could, if you go through the instructions, you can collect all the information that you need to input into this before you even start entering the data into the tool, or you can kind of collect the information for specific sections, enter it into that section, and then come back to it later to enter the other sections. Just one thing to note on this, I think I mean, both ways are fine. If you're logged in to the Green Schools Project website, that's probably the sort of securest way to enter all the data. Then you can if you log in, you can use a laptop, you can use a desktop, you can use different devices, and if you're logged in, your data will be saved automatically and you'll see the results come up. If you're not logged into the website, it will still save your data, but you'll need to kind of go back in through the same device, and also not logged in. So I think some schools we can see they've got two entries, and one of them is when they're logged in, and one of them is when they're not logged in. So if you start it, this is starting to sound complicated, but if you start it when you're not logged in and then you log in, then you probably I don't think you'll see the results that you've entered already. Okay, so just kind of pick one way or the other. I think the best way to do it is make sure you're logged in, and then it'll all be saved. But either way, if you're not logged in, it will save it as long as you're using the same device. I hope that makes sense. Um, and yeah, as I say, I'll go through each of the tabs separately, but on this instructions page is a summary of the information that you need to complete each section. So if we can then go through the different tabs, then the first one is the school details. That's all, fairly straightforward. Just it gives the overview of who you are completing it, so that we can get in touch if there's any issues or questions when we're going through it from our side. Important that you enter, it doesn't have to be exact, but a roughly accurate number of pupils on roll at your school and how many members of staff at your school. That's not just teachers and TAs. That does include, like all the different staff at the school. Don't worry too much about being perfectly accurate of that. Like if you're not including kind of part-time kitchen staff, then that's totally fine. Just a rough estimate of the total number of staff at your school. The next tab is energy. Now there's two different ways to enter energy data. The first and I guess the most accurate way is if you have a record. I guess this would be like school business manager or someone on the finance team might collect the information of the total annual electricity and gas consumption. That if you have a record of that and that's easy to access, then that's the most accurate thing to put in if you're confident that you have the accurate results. And then you can enter those in. And then those are kind of in these two tabs. What was your school's gas consumption and what was your school's electricity consumption? What was your school's gas consumption? Some schools use fuel oil if they're kind of like more sort of rural schools and they're off the gas grid and that kind of thing. That's not a huge number, so you can ignore that if you don't use fuel oil. One new question for this year is about using a renewable electricity tariff or provider. Um, Again, ask the appropriate person. I mean, I'm guessing most of you guys are school coordinators for the program, so yeah, it's kind of your role to coordinate this, but I totally accept that you probably won't have all the information yourself, so it might require a bit of liaising with yeah, as I say, the school business manager or someone in the finance team. Um, if you're not sure about the renewable electricity tariff, you think you might do, you can always just kind of drop us a quick email. My email address is kind of everywhere on this tool. It's on the instructions tab, it's on the submit tab, and if you enter any kind of errors, it appears. Please do just drop me a line if you're not sure about that. But basically, this is just a way of showing that if you do have 100% renewable energy electricity tariff, not gas, then we don't count the carbon emissions for that. And then if yes, just provide the name and of the provider so we can just do a quick check to make sure that tallies. Um, if you don't have the full gas and electricity consumption, and many schools don't, and that's totally normal. If you don't have that, then the next way to look up your energy usage is to estimate it by using the display energy certificate. Now this should be kind of up to date and kind of posted somewhere in the school. It's often in the reception area, so you can kind of look at the physical poster if you like, or probably easier than that, you can look it up online. So on in the instructions here, there's a little link to say the display energy certificate. These should be displayed in each building and can be found online here. So if you click on that, it should open another tab and it literally just asks for the postcode. I'm going to put in an example here of Heathbrook School, the one which Lisa is the coordinator that Nell mentioned in the quote earlier. So I'm going to put their postcode in there. I just click find, and it comes up with a list of different buildings at that postcode. Sometimes can be a little bit confusing because there might be a long list of things and you just have to pick the right one. So I can see here, and what you're looking for is the DEC, the Display Energy Certificate. So I can see this top one is CEPC, so that's not right and it's expired. The next one is the DEC, and I can see it's valid until the 30th of March. So that's the one to click on. There's another one underneath that, which is Heathbrook Park Preschool. I'm guessing that's a separate school. If they're, but sometimes schools do have like more than one display energy certificate. Big secondary schools can sometimes have 4 or 5 display energy certificates, which again can be a little bit confusing. But if you scroll down and you recognize that the building is part of your school, if you just click on that, if you click on that link, then it literally just appears and you can find the information. Heathbrook have got a pretty good energy rating there. And the information that you can find is the bits that you want are the total useful floor area. You need to enter that. And then in the energy use, the annual energy use, these numbers here, the 22.31 and the 80.89. And if I go back to the questionnaire tab, you can just see here, estimation by display energy certificate. It asks for the date, the total useful floor area, annual energy use for electricity, annual energy use for other fuels basically means gas. And then there's space below that for the second, third, fourth, and even fifth display energy certificate. But most schools don't have that. Most schools just have one or at most two, but there's space to enter those there. So that's energy. Um, Again, if you can't find your deck or you've got issues with it, please just drop us an email. We get lots of kind of little quick questions and queries through this. Please don't hesitate. If you're getting stuck with it, don't hesitate. It's normally, we've done this so many times with so many different schools. It's normally a really quick kind of one line response that we can do. So please don't hesitate to get in touch. Um, with travel, now this is an area where actually the pupils can get involved with in terms of collecting the data. What we need is just basically a survey of pupils and staff about how they usually get to school. It doesn't matter if that kind of changes from day to day, but if you just ask them how they usually get to school, pupils can kind of go around different classes and do a little hands up survey. The different options you can see here, which you need to include on the survey, are walk, scoot, and cycle, because obviously those are all the same, don't produce any carbon emissions. And then there's bus, train or tube, petrol or diesel car, electric or hybrid car. We do kind of separate those out because it does, have an impact on the emissions. And car share also, in case children get to school together by car, and then the same for the staff. You can do that by hands up. You could also kind of send out a little quick online survey. There's a couple of links there. The links there are just examples of the questions that you need to ask. So rather, don't actually send that link. Just copy the questions into a new form, which you can then send out to staff. Importantly, you don't need answers from everyone. If you get answers from half of the school, then when it enters into the tool, that gets kind of multiplied up to according to how many pupils are on roll and how many staff are at the school. So yeah, it's just a survey. It doesn't have to be like all the pupils or all the staff. You don't have to get results from everybody. Um, Also, yeah, just one point, if your school has a travel plan, often this has all that data already. So if you've got that, you can dig that out and just enter the results from that. And then moving on to purchasing. Purchasing is something that, yeah, the finance team will need to do. And basically, yeah, you need to kind of give them the headings of the different elements on the form here. And they need to just run a report through their accounting system. Most are able to do that. If the headings don't perfectly match with what they've got in their system, it doesn't matter too much. Just kind of pick the one that's closest to it. And run a report. And we often get asked the question of like, do we have to do it as a financial year or a calendar year? It doesn't matter. As we're kind of at the start of 2026, it might make sense to do the calendar year 2025, but equally if you've got the results in a financial year, that's totally fine as well. Probably best once if you do this year on year, just to kind of stick to the same. So if you did it with a financial year last year, then the following financial year would be best, just to kind of keep them comparable. um, yeah, do try to kind of fill in all of these. The sort of key, the big, normally the biggest spends are on educational resources and building and maintenance. There are a few of them which don't have so much, and it doesn't aren't going to make a big difference to your carbon footprint. But if you miss out any of the kind of really big items, then that will have an impact, and it will make your carbon footprint kind of artificially low if you miss them out. So that's that one. And then the last one is to talk about is the food. Yeah, is food. This one is maybe a little bit more complicated to fill in, but the information should be relatively straightforward. Basically, you just need to find a school menu, either one kind of pinned up on the wall, or most schools kind of have them posted on their website. Often schools will have 3-week menus, or 2 or 3 or 4-week menus. Just pick one. It doesn't matter which one you choose. One that kind of looks typical, or just week one is the most simple to do. The key thing is, yeah, so you also need to find out roughly, again, this doesn't have to be exact, but it can be just on any given day. Ask the canteen staff, or if you've got a record of how many pupils eat school lunches and how many pupils pick a packed lunch, just try to check that if you when you add those two up, it does equal roughly the number of pupils on a school roll. If it, you know, if you're 10 or 20 out, it doesn't matter. But if those two numbers add up to like half of the pupils on your school roll, then obviously then it's going to be artificially low again. Um, Number of staff eat school lunches, again, rough estimate. You can kind of like take a look in the canteen one day and count how many staff there are, and that's fine. It's not going to make a huge impact, but we do ask it. And then the key, what the probably the most key question here is how many meal options there are on the menu each day. Quite often schools will have sort of two menu choices, two main menu choices, and then we'll have like a jacket potato choice, or they might have jacket potato or sandwich or something like that. Quite often it's easier to sort of combine those like alternative options into one menu choice, because otherwise it just, you know, you're making too many different menu options, or meal options rather. But basically, if you look through the menu, let's say you've got three different options, then the most important one that makes the biggest difference on the carbon footprint is the protein sources. So if you just go through here, and every time you see, like for example, if it's spaghetti bolognese, that's probably going to be beef. Um, Sometimes it's obvious because it'll be like chicken escalope or something like that. But yeah, basically you just go through all the different menu options for one week, and type in how many times you see lamb, how many times you see beef, how many times you see chicken, corn, tofu, and so on. I'm just going to kind of fill this out. So if I put in three meal options, it will automatically, and this is another point, as you're filling this out, if you've entered it correctly and it's saved, a little tick will appear by it, so you know that you've entered it correctly. If a cross appears, then an error message will appear with a little with my email address, so you can get in touch. If I start entering these and I end up entering too many different meal choices, then there's a little error message that appears there because I've said there's only three meal options per day, but then I've ended up choosing too many protein sources because we would assume there's probably only one protein source per meal. And then there's so yeah, an error message there which says you've chosen too many protein sources. Again, if you're stuck, you're not sure what's happening, just send me an email. If you can send me an email with a link to the school menu, even better. And you know, we can enter this data for you if you're struggling with it. Um, and then if I reduce the number of meal options, then the error message disappears. So you can submit it with an error message, but obviously yeah, it's best if you kind of change it so that it doesn't have that message. And then similarly with the other ones, vegetables, carbohydrates, and so on. Yeah, in this case, I haven't entered enough, but as soon as I start entering more of them, then that message will disappear. Um, yeah, so I think that's it for food, and we're running out of time anyway. Last tab is submit. It's yes, a little kind of message to say thank you, and then if you just click that submit button once, okay, it comes up with an error message for me because I haven't entered in some key data, but it should, once you press submit, it should say submission successful. One or two people actually have got in touch to say that there was an error when submitting, but actually has submitted successfully. So if it does come up with an error message, drop me a quick email and I can just check whether it has submitted successfully. Normally it has. So that's yeah, that's that. I think that covers everything. So I'll stop share. Yeah, Zenobia, I'll pass over to you about feedback and then